Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, cha, bonjour, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jedley, and you are listening to Reading with Your Kids. We're coming to you from Reedville, the loveliest neighborhood in all of Boston. Our mission is to help all families grow closer through reading, and we do that by introducing you to the coolest authors, the funniest tales, and a whole lot of reading inspiration for the whole family. We hope you'll help spread the word by telling all of your family and friends, your kids' teachers, librarian, principals, and random strangers you meet on the street about the show and letting them know that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network, and they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible, CastBox, Player FM. Wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. With all that being said, let's get this reading party started. Our guests today include two really wonderful authors. First up, Bob McKinnon is returning to Reading with Your Kids to celebrate his brand new picture book. It's called America Gives Thanks. And later in the show, illustrator Nikkolas Smith will be here to celebrate his powerful new picture book, A Change Is Gonna Come, based on lyrics of the iconic Sam Cooke song. Are you looking for a creative way to bond with your kids? Let me tell you all about Drawing with Your Kids, the ultimate destination for artistic adventures. Join us as we dive into the wonderful world of children's books with renowned illustrators guiding you step by step. From beloved characters to whimsical scenes, unleash your imagination and create cherished memories together. Whether you're a seasoned artist or just picking up a pencil, there's something for everyone at Drawing with Your Kids. Please visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com, and click on the Drawing with Your Kids link at the top of the page and let the creativity flow. Drawing with Your Kids, where every stroke brings stories to life. Hey, my friends, you know one of my favorite parts of the day is story time. There's just something magical about snuggling up with your kids, opening a great book, and escaping into an adventure together. And let me tell you, that moment becomes even more magical when you're curled up in the softest, coziest bedding you've ever felt. That's why I'm so excited that CozyEarth.com is supporting Reading with Your Kids. Their bamboo sheets, comforters, and pajamas are unbelievably soft, naturally breathable, and temperature regulating, which means no more sweaty nights or chilly toes. Right now, Cozy Earth is offering Reading with Your Kids listeners an unbelievable and exclusive 41% off their entire site. That's right, you heard me right, 41% off. So go ahead, create your own cozy reading nook, wrap yourself and your kids up in something comfy, grab your favorite bedtime book, and turn story time into the best part of your day. Head on over to CozyEarth.com and use the promo code READ at checkout to save 41%. That's CozyEarth.com, promo code READ. I am very excited. We are welcoming back our guest today. He's here to celebrate his new picture book, America Give Thanks. Please welcome back Bob McKinnon. Bob, how are you?
I'm doing great. Always good to talk to you, Jed. Thanks so much for having me.
Great to have you back on America Give Thanks. This is, I was reading the description of the book. It sounds like a great way to start some very important conversations with our kids.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. It was sort of designed originally as, my publisher came to me and they said they were looking for, different kinds of books around gratitude and what we can be grateful for. Things that sort of go beyond the pilgrim story around Thanksgiving and more about what kinds of things should we be thinking about in terms of gratitude. And, this is a pretty unique angle because what we're basically, saying we should be grateful for is people complaining. And complaining in a way in which it can help make the world a better place, either for an individual person or for a group of people. And also having conversations with kids about, how do we complain in a way that is respectful, and, is about, doing what's right. And I think it's definitely a message that's important these days.
Yeah, back when I was performing full time, the show that was always that schools always requested me to come in and perform was a anti-bullying theme to it. And as I was doing the show for a couple of decades, it really I became very much aware that if we wanted to build school cultures that were respectful and inclusive, we had to go beyond the say no to bullying. Just put the slogans up and really encourage kids to stand up and say something when they saw somebody being hurt or excluded. And that was a message that kids really resonated with, and I think it made a big difference in the lives of the kids who took it to heart.
Yeah. I mean, there's stories within the book about sort of, people some very well known, some not as well known, who at different points had noticed that there was a need and stood up. And so whether it's something like during the Great Depression and appreciating that someone might be hungry, or what do you do even today if you see a kid who doesn't have enough food in their lunchbox? You basically stand up and you do something, right? Or if, in the case of the singer Marian Anderson, who's also included in the book, she wasn't allowed to perform in certain places. And Eleanor Roosevelt stood up for her and said, no, let's do a concert on the mall. Or, personally, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you if I, hadn't gone to college courtesy of a Pell grant. Mm-hmm. And most people wouldn't know the name of Claiborne Pell and how he stood up to make college more accessible and affordable for folks. And so it is these ways in which we can sort of see in our nation's history that people have done the right thing by standing up for others and doing so in a way that was respectful of mm-hmm. differing opinions, and that engendered compassion and empathy. And again, something that, I think we should definitely encourage not only, our children to do, but adults. Being respectful and having differences of opinions in a respectful way, that's something I haven't seen in an awfully long time. Yeah, well, it's really odd. I mean, this is probably, maybe there's others, but I haven't heard of any. It's probably the only children's book that was inspired in part by the events on January 6th. My daughter had written an essay in 7th grade where she watched what was happening. And she'd also seen what was happening during COVID and people's unwillingness to put masks on or to protect other people. And in her essay, the opening paragraph was, I realized over the last year what the real lesson I learned was the world wasn't rainbow and unicorns anymore. Mm-hmm. And the idea to see your kid talk about her lost innocence because of the way in which people weren't behaving. We can have disagreements with government, with different people in political parties, or we don't like the way things are, but there's a way to respond, and to model the kind of behavior that we want our children to do when they don't see something right, or when they're complaining about something in their own home or with a sibling or a friend, right? And there's a productive way to complain. There's an appreciation for what's worth complaining about, and how to do it in a way that's gonna, help you and help others.
Yeah, very, very important. And I love the idea of encouraging kids to be grateful for the fact that we are living in a society where we can complain and things can be changed.
Yeah, it's amazing that if you think about sort of the progress that we have made as a country over, our 250-year history, it's largely because people have been able to raise their voices, right? And to stand up and voice a complaint, to do it in solidarity with others and to make a difference. And I think sometimes that gets lost on it. I personally, the book itself is set on a field trip in DC. And like a lot of, people, I've grown sort of sad or disillusioned with the way in which we talk to each other and try to, change things in ways that are maybe more volatile than they need to be. And so I went down to DC looking for inspirations, and I was sitting on the Capitol steps and I was feeling a little disillusioned and trying to think about, this book. And I saw kids on a field trip, and they were excited and about what they were going to learn and sort of, looking up at the Lincoln Memorial for the first time in awe. And it was this sort of reminder of of what's possible, and, remembering a long history of progress.
Yeah. Where did the idea, was it just that sitting there seeing those kids that where the idea of like, oh, gratitude and complaining, let's mush those together?
Yeah, it's like most sort of ideas. I think it's a combination of things, right? It's sort of a mix up. I once learned, I was reading a book recently about the brain and memory, and in the book it talks about the place in your brain where memory exists is the same place where you process imagination, which is to say that there's no idea of an idea that comes out. There's no such thing as an idea that comes out of nowhere, right? It's actually coming through what we've experienced ourselves. And so, yeah, so this was a combination of what my daughter had written in her essay, the prompt from my publisher, the fact that I went down to DC looking for inspiration. I happened to stumble upon field trips. And then I myself went on the field trip that is in the book. And there were more stops that I took, some that originally were in original drafts and I revised for different reasons. But it was literally my experience on the field trip. And so it was this combination of factors that led me to go on that walk. And then actually on the Amtrak on our way home, I wrote the first draft of the book.
Awesome. Neat. How you're doing a lot. You work at City College. You're just leading an exciting program at City College. You write for different publications. You write for adults. How do you like having the children's books as part of that daily work that you're doing?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, what unites all my work, whether it's in the classroom with college students, whether it's, working with nonprofits or foundations or writing for adults or these children's books, they're all linked by the idea of trying to help people move up in life like I was once helped myself. So when I reference Claiborne, Pell and things like that, we're so fortunate if we have any degree of success to been assisted by others. And so that's the link for all of the work. The children's books provides a real opportunity sort of to distill key messages down into really basic but rich terms. And so whether my first book, Three Little Engines, that was all about, yes, we want to believe in ourselves and work hard, but we all have different journeys on different tracks. The second book, America's Dreaming, was about the importance of feeling welcomed and that you belong. And this book is about sort of gratitude and standing up for what's right. And, those are very simple ideas that can get lost in our day-to-day lives. And the opportunity to distill them into a children's book and then go into classrooms and do readings or talk to you or people who are such passionate believers in the importance of reading and children. It's just a really wonderful way to ground, my work in general in this specific audience and medium. It's really, one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah. One of the things that I think I'm seeing, we've spoken to publishers in other countries, especially South America, and one of the things they were saying is that the books that are published in South America for that audience tend to deal with heavier subjects. Books that are published here in the States. And I'm thinking that, and I'm hoping that trend is changing, and that with the books like America Gives Thanks and a book I just spoke to an illustrator about, a change is going to come. I hope we're going to see more and more books that give families an opportunity to address some pretty heavy topics.
Yeah, no doubt. I actually was just reading an article in the Times this week about Little Match Girl, that sort of incredibly moving and sad story about a little girl who freezes to death, right? And that's, still to this day, one of the most popular children's books around, sort of dealing with sort of very serious issues and trying to create a sense of empathy and caring and understanding of the plight of others. I think that with children's books, there's a real opportunity to sort of introduce them into not just lessons, but sort of questions and ways of seeing the world that I think are really important for them to wonder, like, how did this become this way? Or why is this? And is this fair? Is this right? And to ask those questions earlier, I got to tell you, when I go into the classrooms or an assembly and I'm talking to kids, I mean, they get this stuff in ways that many adults don't. And it's really affirming to me to see the interest in these books, right? Sometimes people might look, oh, a children's book with, historical characters. That's probably not that's not a lot of fun. And in fact, it is a lot of fun. I mean, you're discovering part of our history, and they're written and illustrated in such beautiful ways, and making you think about people whose legacy is important to consider, and messages that should resonate through time.
Yeah. And I think one of the things, in addition to some people thinking, oh, history is not fun, which is a silly idea to have, but I think some parents might be afraid to pick up these conversations because they're afraid their kids are going to ask them a question that they don't know the answer to. And I actually think I used to love those questions from my kids because it spurred more conversations.
Yeah, and you can look it up and learn together, which I think is really wonderful, which I enjoy doing. I think that, ignorance is an interesting word. It sort of often seems like it's a negative and pejorative, but it's just you're not aware of something, right? And so, to be introduced to something you're unsure of is an opportunity to learn more. I actually learn a lot in writing these books. I didn't know, in my previous book, Sojourner Truth, as a character, and I didn't realize that she was so eloquent, sort of going and giving lectures, but she couldn't read. And beyond that, she apparently had an incredible sense of humor and loved to tell jokes, And so the idea of, learning, is to me as much fun as you can have, and if you get the opportunity to learn that with your children, I mean, that's just fantastic.
Absolutely. Tell me, a lot of authors of middle grade and YA titles often tell me that the characters or the book, the story, took a turn that they weren't expecting. Any of that happened in America Give Thanks?
Yeah. In fact, and this is a good example of the power of complaining and raising issues in a respectful way. In an earlier version of the book, one of the stops that I had included was by the Vietnam Memorial. And there was a whole storyline that was written about sort of the teacher in the story based on what I had seen, which was someone sort of running their hands over the name of a loved one on the wall, which was very moving. But respectfully, my illustrator, Tai Mai Phuong, she was like, she's Vietnamese. And she had said, I understand the story, I completely get it, but, this will land differently for my family, including any aspect of this, because the memory of the Vietnam War is obviously much different there. And she basically said, I appreciated it. So she couldn't illustrate it. And she was happy to step aside from the project if that's what it meant. And I told her, that, she's been a wonderful partner on these projects, these America books. I love her illustrations, and out of respect for her, I just said, let's try to find a different character to include in the story. And so that's how Marian Anderson and her story got to be included. And it ended up creating one of the, most beautiful illustrations in the book, which is, her and the other characters looking at the reflecting pool at the mall. And so, yeah, so in the writing of the book, there was definitely that turn that wasn't expected.
I see on your website that one of the highlights that you celebrate on your website is the fact that you had a chance to interview Billy Joel on 50th anniversary. What was that like?
He was fantastic. It was really funny. I'm sure you have this experience interviewing people. Sometimes people just hop on, and if it's a phone call, like I just said Bob McKinnon, he's like, yeah, this is Billy Joel. So that's how it started. But it was, a lot of the work that I do is also looking at the stories that we tell about the American dream and what it means to be successful. And so that's included being able to partner with NPR on a couple of projects where we looked at really iconic sort of cultural texts. And so one was The Great Gatsby and its 100th anniversary. And then last year was the 50th anniversary of The Piano Man. And that song specifically, and a lot of Joel's music, is this reflection of what does success mean? How is it accomplished? How do we think about it? And so it was really wonderful. And talk about learning. I not only interviewed him, but I interviewed a musicologist. And we spoke about just the way in which that song is written. It's in a waltz time, which is interesting. It's meant to be sung along to, like you might in a bar. And so he was wonderful. I learned a lot about that song. I recently watched the HBO documentary on his life, which was fascinating. But he was very gracious and a great person to speak to.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love when you meet somebody that you've admired for a long time and they turn out to be nice people.
Yeah, you want to hear something really wonderful? Is that once we sort of booked the interview, he sent me a collection of his albums. And then I sent him my children's books because he has two young daughters. And so it was just, I think I made out better in the trade, but it was still wonderful to be able to share sort of things that we had created.
That's awesome. You are, one of the things that you do is you're leading the social mobility lab at City College. Can you just talk a little bit about the work that you do there?
Yeah. And so, the primary focus of the lab is that there's been a tremendous amount of research about social mobility. What does it take to move up from being lower income to a more successful life? What does a successful life even look like, and how do we achieve it? But often that knowledge is sort of trapped in academic journals or behind, paywalls. And so the goal of the lab is, one, to generate more knowledge about issues that are important to people who are struggling to make it, but also to find ways to make that knowledge more accessible to folks and to engage them in ways that they can really say, like, oh, wait, I didn't realize that where I sit in a classroom can impact the grade I get. Or I didn't realize that self-silencing is something that a lot of people do when they come from difficult backgrounds. They don't seem to be more engaged in professional or academic settings. And so really trying to sort of take knowledge that's out there and put it in a way that people can really use it and apply it to their own journeys.
I'm curious, how do you think the emergence of AI is going to figure into people being socially mobile?
So that's a great question. In fact, one of the things we're doing, we went old school, and a couple of our research assistants went and found 100 studies that we thought were relevant. And that's what we're sort of creating this campaign in the fall to share. But we're also in talks about developing an AI tool where we can train it to help answer questions like, I'm a first generation college student or I've got a single parent. What are the things that I should sort of be knowing about my journey? And so we are trying to figure out ways in which we can use AI. And even a smaller thing is this fall we're introducing, as part of a class I teach and part of another project, a tour around City College. And it's a social mobility tour that is intended to create sensations of awe, because you don't realize what's literally right around you. And so if you are on the campus of City College, there's the Great Hall there, which has an incredible story about the formation of the college. If you go around the block, you'll find Alexander Hamilton's home, the Grange, and his story. If you go further down a couple blocks, you'll see Strivers Row and the home of the first woman millionaire in the country, who's African American, Madam Walker. Or you'll see where, Langston Hughes used to mentor people at the Y and Road America. These incredible stories that are all around us. And I used AI to generate the tour. I gave it certain prompts, and it helped me discover the kinds of things that were around there. And so I think there's a lot of ways in which, again, that can be a useful tool to help people on their journeys.
I certainly use AI a lot here. It makes my life on the podcast very, very much easier. And but I always make sure I'm polite and say please and thank you, because if they do come over, I want to remember I was a nice guy.
That's pretty wise, yes.
Tell us where we can go to find out more about America Gives Thanks and all that you do.
Well, so America Gives Thanks should be available anywhere you want to try to buy a book. And so go to your independent stores. If they don't have it, they'll stock it. You can go to, Penguin, our publisher, and they'll, direct you to ways to purchase it. Obviously, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all the great partners out there who put books in the hands of people. To find out about more work in general, you can go to movingupusa.com, and there you'll have the opportunity to subscribe to my weekly Substack or learn about other projects, including the Social Mobility Lab or the Billy Joel special you referenced, as well. Also, wanted to, for your listeners out there, we also have a special project we've been doing in conjunction with my last book called Welcome Wagons, where we are donating books about welcoming and belonging to schools around the country where they may have issues, where maybe children don't feel like they belong. And so that information is also available on the site if you are in a community or go to a school where you think you may want to receive a welcome wagon. So feel free to reach out that way as well.
That's very, very good. I remember we were talking about that the last time you were here. So great.
Yeah, we've given 50 out across probably 20 states. They featured it on the Kelly Clarkson show, which was really cool. And look forward to giving out even more.
We've had a great time speaking to the author of America Gives Thanks. Our guest has been Bob McKinnon. Bob, thanks so much for being back on Reading with Your Kids.
Always a pleasure, Jed. Thanks for having me.
Hey, my friends, I have a super idea you are going to love. How about this weekend, turn your backyard cookout into a storybook celebration? Fire up the grill, crack open a few of your favorite picture books, and serve up Big Fork Brand's legendary bacon sausage. Made with nitrate-free bacon and premium pork, it's juicy, smoky, and unforgettable. Top it off with Big Fork's spicy Chicago fire sauce, and you've got a meal as bold as the characters in your favorite bedtime tale. Get 20% off your order using the promo code READ at bigforkbrands.com. That's bigforkbrands.com. Promo code READ to get 20% off, because nothing brings families together like great food, great books, and a whole lot of flavor. Big Fork Brands. Read, grill, repeat. Hey, real quick, we want to let you know that this episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by Zivo Life. ZIVO.life. Zivo Life. Hey, parents, caregivers, and book lovers, ever wish you had a little bit more zip in your step when you're reading The Very Hungry Caterpillar for the 5th or the 50th time today? Say hello to Zivo Life, your new best friend in daily wellness. Zivo Life is the world's most nutrient-dense whole plant loaded with 50% plant protein, essential amino acids, fiber, antioxidants, and so much more. It's a powerhouse in just 1 teaspoon a day, and yes, is giving people more energy, better gut health, and even healthier skin and hair. If you want to feel more energized, focused, and vibrant during your next animated storytime performance, Zivo Life might just be your secret weapon. Visit zivo.life, ZIVO.life, and use the promo code READ to get 30% off your order. It comes with a 30-day risk-free guarantee, and you've got nothing to lose except your sluggishness. Go now to zivo.life and use the promo code READ and save 30%. Join us right now from beautiful Los Angeles in California. Our guest is here today to celebrate his new picture book. He is the illustrator of A Change Is Going to Come. Please welcome to the show, Nikkolas Smith. Nikkolas, how are you?
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm doing great.
Delighted to have you on. Through the magic of technology, Nikkolas and I are looking into each other's space, and I just have this boring blue background behind me, and Nikkolas, behind him is some pretty powerful artwork.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Some of my canvas art from February this year.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Before we jump into the book, how would you describe your style? I'm always fascinated with the creative process of other people, especially people who do something I don't have any ability in.
Okay, my style, I would say, well, for many, many years, I've been doing what I call Sunday sketches and mainly digital painting. So I really started digital and now I'm getting a little bit more into, acrylic on canvas, stuff like that. But my painting style, digitally is very abstract, so sometimes semi-abstract, sometimes a little bit more realistic, but I try to make it very painterly. I want it to feel like an oil painting, every piece that I do. A lot of people think my digital art is oil painted. And, they'll ask me for if I have the original, and I'm like, it's a JPEG. But it's a lot of it is, it might be maybe like a portrait. It might be something that is connected to a scene, of something that's happening in the world. A lot of it is what I call artivism. It's connected to the things, the broken bones, the things that need to be fixed in the world. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, A Change Is Going to Come is based on the iconic song by Sam Cooke.
Sure.
Yes. The first time I listened, I decided that the way I would read the book is by also listening to the song. And it's a pretty powerful experience.
Yeah. I love doing it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me, was it your idea to come up with this, or did the publisher come and say, hey, we need you to illustrate this book?
Yeah, the publisher Little B came to me. I've been doing quite a few picture books recently. Some about American slavery, Born on the Water, or Ruby Bridges book, or a book about the Confederate flag. Things that have to do with American history, a lot of times with civil rights. And so I think maybe I was on their radar because of some of those books. And, they said that they had this amazing project with Sam Cooke's estate, and really quite possibly the most iconic civil rights song of all time. And it was really just, it sounded like a project that I couldn't pass up. I really want to make art that is monumental in this way and speaks to justice for all, freedom, all these kind of like quote unquote patriotic ideals that we should all stand for, right? And so I was like, yes, I have to be a part of this project.
Yeah. That must have been an exciting moment for you. Did you immediately know what the pictures were that you wanted to illustrate, or was it a process that kind of took some time to grow?
It took a little bit of time. I immediately my mind went back to all the times in my life that I've heard this classic song. I think the first time I heard it was probably watching Malcolm X, the Spike Lee film 20 years ago, and just like, everybody was really blown away by the song in that film. And then, but also just like in the Black community, this song is so important, and it's everywhere. I don't know any Black person who does not know about this song, right? And it goes beyond the Black community too. It's just so iconic. And so I was thinking of how I would visualize it. And I know that there's so much, heartbreak and injustice tied into the song, of course, connected to the civil rights era. But then there's also like a lot of hope and a lot of, what could this world look like, with, this justice that we're looking for, this change. And so I felt like I needed to like layer on a whole new story on top of the lyrics. The book is like the entire lyrics of the song. So I kind of wanted to put together this, it's really a story of this photographer, who is kind of like, in a way, almost like this Forrest Gump kind of character who kind of goes through all these, highs and lows of the civil rights era. In his, early on, he finds this camera floating in the river, and he takes it with him throughout his life, and it takes him to some very interesting and amazing and difficult and wonderful places. And so I felt like that way I could kind of really he kind of mirrors Gordon Parks, this amazing photographer, filmmaker, Black photographer, filmmaker. And so really kind of through that, literally that lens, he can kind of capture all these moments. I'm really leading up to the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The pictures are powerful and disturbing because it's depicting a disturbing part of our history. And it's, I think a lot of parents might be a little tentative and not know how to, it's certainly not the cutesy picture book that a lot of families are used to. Mm-hmm. But I think it's very, very important that we sit down and share these moments with our kids so that we can make the changes that we still need to make.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. I feel like most of I call my books picture books, not really children's books. I do think they're for all ages. I love it when, kids can sit with grown-ups and talk about some very important issues, some things that need to be discussed. And what I've noticed is kids understand these issues that need to be talked about. There's a lot of adults who are saying, "Oh, kid, this is too old for kids," and they shouldn't be talking about this stuff. And a lot of times, those are people who just don't want to talk about American history. But the kids get it, and all of these stories, all these books, really at the core, they have a message of unity and love and what it means to really, live in harmony. And so, I think kids understand these things, and it's like, I think it's great that we can have, stories that span all these ages. And, yeah.
Yeah. I agree that kids can handle a lot more than we give them credit for.
Yeah.
Absolutely. My beautiful wife and I took a lot of stares and grief when, at a very young age, we, would bring our kids to funerals and talk to them about grief and death and injustice. And, we'd hear, the kids aren't ready for that. And it's like, no, they are. Yeah. And they handled it really well. And now they're quite, I'm very proud of the kind of adults that they've grown into.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you always imagine yourself creating and illustrating picture books?
I didn't really early on. My background is architecture. I have a Master of Architecture from Hampton University, HBCU in Virginia. And when I got there, I found out that they were connected to Walt Disney, and specifically Walt Disney Imagineering. I ended up becoming an Imagineer right after college. For 11 years, I designed theme parks, and that was my life. And I thought I would be an architect for my career. But then, at the same time, I was kind of, realizing, maybe art is my passion and not necessarily architecture. I was making a lot of, artivism, nights and weekends, making art about, tragedies that were taking place, in America, around the world. And that started to turn into, different opportunities to make picture books, to make, art for films, concept art, all these different things. And yeah, once the picture book world opened, that was like in 2016, a book about the Olympics, these girls who won gold medals at the Olympics. And then once that happened, I was like, okay, I love working with kids. I've been volunteering with kids for many, many years. And it's like, I like art. I like, hanging out with kids and kind of talking to them about the future and stuff. So, let's make picture books. And it really, once I left Disney in 2019, to become a full-time illustrator. And that was when the emails started coming. At that point, I had done maybe like 7-8 years of Sunday sketches, making art once a week for many years. And I started getting emails from publishers about like, hey, can you illustrate this picture book about slavery or this and that, all these other things. And yeah, so now I feel like it's just one of the things that I love most because it can, like I said, it can bring together many ages. It can get us talking about sometimes difficult topics, right? Like and change is gonna come. There's literally, this scene where it does kind of like visualize the attack dogs and the water hoses and all of the very, some of the most difficult moments of the civil rights era. And I think, kids need to know about what it was like then. And just it really, when I put it in a picture book, it kind of shows how ridiculous the concept of racism is and like why we even, I mean, I just had a picture book called The History of We about the history of humanity and literally the idea that like we are different shades of skin tone because some of our ancestors went to colder climates with less sun and boom, so we have different skin tones. Like it's really ridiculous that it ever got to the point where, racism is such a global, like catastrophic issue. Like it doesn't make sense.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. And, as one of the things that struck me as I was listening to Sam sing the song and looking at your illustrations was that I lived through all of those moments. I saw those moments on TV when I was a kid. And I think that's one of the things that we need to help our kids understand is that we're not talking ancient history. We're talking, kids, your grandparents. When this happened when your grandparents were going to school.
Mm-hmm. I have my Ruby Bridges picture book. It's written by Ms. Ruby, her 6-year-old self, like what that was like. And when I'm talking to kids, they always say like, so Ruby Bridges is still alive? I'm like, yeah, she's still alive. She has an Instagram. You can follow her. She's younger than my mom. It wasn't that long ago, and I think it's great for kids to be able to make that connection and to see. I mean, there's parts of this book where I'm showing the type of like kind of like almost like a shotgun house and I grew up in Texas and my grandma was always in Louisiana and the type of environment that many Black people have lived in for the past 60, 70 years, that, I feel like the kids start to see, what type of conditions, certain people were in a way forced to live in or to be placed in. And, the promises of like 40 acres and a mule and equality and equal housing and equal rights and, the just constant years and years of struggle, to be able to just have, some sort of what we call equity or just some sort of level playing field. It's helpful for kids to see that and then just really to understand like, yeah, it hasn't been a long time, but it's been a really tough struggle. Mm-hmm. But in that tough struggle, it feels like it's been a long time. Like the lyrics of the song, it's been a long time. It feels like it's been a long time, but it hasn't been a long time, right? So.
I also see hope in your book. There was that one, I don't know if this is what you're referring to. There's this one spread where the families are, they're out in front of the houses. Yes. And talk a little bit about that spread, please.
Yeah. So this one, I think it's so important to me. It's, there's, this mom with 5 kids and it is, like I said, very reminiscent of, for me, the type of environment that I would see in Baton Rouge, Louisiana growing up. and certain parts of Texas, and just like the conditions that were just completely just like subpar living conditions. It's people who have next to nothing, and for reasons that are completely connected to racism and segregation and all these things. And they're holding up signs talking about, 40 acres and a mule, equal education, equity now, fighting for justice. And so, there's all throughout this book it's been a long, long time coming, and you see the struggle and you see the brokenness, and you always have like a mirror side of that, which says, but I know a change is going to come. Oh, yes, it will. And so on the flip side of this spread, you have those 5 children, many years later who have graduated. And you see the mom in the background kind of like in a little bit of an exhale, like, my job is done, like my kids are educated. The rundown house in the background is now a family owned, restaurant called Nova's. Nova's the name of my grandma. And all the kids, are wearing the graduation school colors of 5 HBCUs, Prairie View A&M, Tuskegee, Hampton University, which is my alma mater, Florida A&M, and Spelman. And so, it's kind of just one of those, spreads that I feel like really encapsulates what the book is about, like this mirror of like the struggle, but then change and what change can look like, and what does it look like when everybody can have an education and not be blocked with a million roadblocks along the way. That's one of my favorite ones right there.
Yeah, it certainly was one of my favorites. This is a silly question maybe, but if you had a chance to sit down with Sam Cooke today, what would you want to talk to him about?
Oh, wow. I would want to talk to him about probably one of the other spreads that I have that says, I know a change is going to come. It's kind of like the setting for, One Night in Miami. There was this, it's February 25th, 1964. What was that night like when you were hanging out with, Muhammad Ali and Jim Brown and Malcolm X, and what was that like? Tell me everything. And it was one of those pivotal moments, I feel like, where there was obviously so much happening in terms of leading up to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. I mean, just the idea of like Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali in the same room, just that alone. What was that like? And what were some of the things going through your mind? Did you envision that, Malcolm would have so little time to live, after that? And did you foresee like some of these terrible things happening, or could you see the path forward to the signing of the Civil Rights Act? What was going through your head, and also like what was in your camera? Like he has some of the most iconic photos ever. And so, I want to, as an artist, I would want to ask him like, what other photos do you have in your camera?
I love that. Hey, what are you working on now?
Now I'm coming up with a lot of just new stories that I want to tell. They might develop into other types of children's books, picture books, other, maybe like a graphic novel type of thing. I just finished my picture book that comes out next year, called That Beautiful Mind. And, that one is, with Scholastic, and it's written by Tammy Charles. And it's really about her son and the way that his mind works, which I feel like is very similar to the way that my mind works. And just kind of how, I think anybody who might go through life maybe with, ADHD or some sort of way that might be a little bit different from the way that some other people, solve problems or handle life. Just kind of that type of book, just to show his beautiful mind. So I'm excited about that. That one's early next year. And yeah, and just more like this art here, more canvas art on the way.
Wonderful.
For sure.
Yeah. Are you considering writing some of your stories?
Yeah, all of the new stories I'm definitely writing. And like the history of We that just came out, I wrote that one, and also The Artivist, which is really the now 11 years of Sunday sketch and artivism that I've done. That book was all about that. So I've written a few now, and I feel like that kind of that next challenge for me is like maybe it's the graphic novel, maybe it's like the longer story. Like I haven't written that much yet in a published book, so maybe that's the next challenge.
All right.
Yeah.
We've had a number of illustrators on who've done graphic novels. There was one day when I had two different interviews with two different illustrators, and the first one came on. They both had created graphic novels, and the first one told me, I made simple characters because I knew I had to do like 1,000 illustrations.
Right.
So I wanted to make it as simple as possible. And then an hour later, I spoke to another artist, and she her graphic novel was based on ancient Greek history, and she said it was so difficult because there was so much detail, and it was so hard. Every picture was so hard to create.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Nikkolas, you have an open invitation to come back on to celebrate the new book. So,
well, thank you. It comes out in a month, September 2nd. I'm super excited about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so please tell everybody where they can go to find out more about A Change Is Gonna Come and find out more about you and see your great artwork.
Yeah, Change Is Gonna Come. It's available for pre-order now wherever books are sold. And for me, Nikkolas.art. I spell my name with 2 Ks because my mom wanted it to be different and unique, I guess. And so it's very easy to find. Nikkolas. Nikkolas.art. Yeah, do some internet search and it'll pop up, and there's a lot of great books out there connected to some of the work that I've done, and so yeah, check it all out.
Awesome. We've had a great time speaking to the illustrator of A Change Is Gonna Come, a new picture book based on the music by Sam Cooke. Our guest has been Nikkolas Smith. Nikkolas, thanks so much for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you. This is great.
That's it for today's chapter of Reading with Your Kids. Thanks for joining us on this adventure. If this episode made you smile or made you think, and how could you not think about the many things we talked about on this episode, please share it with your family and friends, and leave a 5-star review and smash that subscribe button. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so amazing, starting with our guest, Bob McKinnon. Please be sure to check out America Gives Thanks. Also want to thank Nikkolas Smith. Please be sure to check out A Change Is Gonna Come. And we'd love to thank Sam Cooke and the Sam Cooke Estate for allowing Nikkolas to create such a masterpiece. I want to thank our great sponsors, Zevo.life, Zevo.life, BigForkBrands.com, and CozyEarth.com. When you use our promo code READ, you score a great deal, and we may earn a small commission that helps keep the podcast magical and free for families everywhere. My team deserves a big shout-out. Thanks to Fatima Khan, Chris Doherty, El Glassman, Dante Greco. I want to give a big thank you to my beautiful wife and most of all, we all want to thank you. Remember, reading together is a real magic that connects us one story at a time. Until next time, keep turning those pages and sharing those smiles.
What?